So everyone should be able to see through the webinar the case management system screen that's up on my computer. That is going to be the login screen for everybody. And as you can see, you need to log in order to log in, you're going to have to change your, right now it says CHA CBO ID, but it's actually SBAP SBSO ID to one of the agencies, right? So you should be able to see your agency down here. You can see Chautauqua Chamber Development Corporation, Center State CEO is there, Capital District Black Chamber. Everybody should be there. If I log in as myself, as CSS, I'm going to be in an administrator role. So I'm not going to log in as CSS. I'm actually going to log in so we had a question about where the link is. The link is actually through the chat menu. I didn't send the link through email. It's to the chat menu. So you should be able to see that in your GoToWebinar interface. Okay, so I'm going to actually log in as someone from AFI here. So your user ID, the convention that we have for everyone's user ID, and I'll send everybody an email with this information in it, is your first initial and your last name, and then SB, as in small business. So mine is P. Foster SB. And then right now, during the testing period, we are going to have everybody's password be the same thing, because you're not going to be putting in actual information. So username and password, first initial, last name, SB. Okay, great. So we can see that everybody has the link. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. So just to go over the implementation schedule again with everyone, we're going to continue to use the Access database files through December 31st. So through the end of the year, everyone should still be actually reporting in their Access database files. So you'll have one more submission to me through email where you will send me the information from your database files at the end of the year. So right now we're going over the database training in our monthly meeting, and then for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, we're going to ask you all to log in and do some testing and then give us some feedback. So one of the documents that I just emailed everybody is a test case that I tried to make as entertaining as possible for you. And we can go over that at the end of the training today. After the 14th, hopefully we'll be able to get all the kinks worked out in the system, and on January 1st, we'll really be live, and everyone can start doing all their reporting for their cases and their presentations inside the system that we're going over today. We are also undertaking a data migration project, so we will be asking everybody for their Access databases, and then we will send those databases to our database developers, and they will migrate all the data from your Access database files into our new system so that all of the SBAP data will be in one place and it will be inside this online database for us, which should help you and should help us when we go through reporting. So we've been working on this project for a long time. We're really excited about it. Those of you who are familiar with the CHA database, this database was built off of the CHA database, and it should help everybody with data entry. Our quality assurance should become more automated now and more regular, and then also your reporting is going to be automatic. I talked about this a little bit at the conference on November. So the system is going to be that everybody puts in their data, and then at the end of the month, I'm going to log in and check and make sure that everybody's data is in the system. So nobody has to send me an email anymore about reporting. And then inside the system, we'll have the quality assurance where I will let you know if one of your cases is under review. I will be sending you notes through the system, and then you can go over your cases and send me notes back. So let's go ahead and log in here. If anybody's having a problem with logging in right now, you can definitely let us know. But if you can't get inside the system, then we'll sort that out after the presentation. Okay, so the general overview of this, let's log in. Hold on just a second. Okay, sorry about that. So I just logged in as myself, so some of the screens are going to be a little different. I'll make a note there. You might be seeing some, might not be seeing some of the buttons that you see on the presentation screen because I can see more information as an administrator, so ignore those. Okay, so we are going to go over today the concept of clients, concept of cases, also talk about presentations, evaluation forms, and then shortly reports. So inside this system, we need to sort of separate out clients and cases. So we're going to go to the top button up here, create or search a business client. Click on that. Okay, so inside this screen, you can see that this is where you would enter information to search for a client. So if you have a bunch of clients in your database, this is where you would go in and you would search for them. You're probably not going to know a client ID, but you very well could know a business name off the top of your head or from some paperwork that you have, or zip code or whatnot. If you just press search, it's going to pull up everybody. No records found in there. Okay. So let's add a new client so that we have a record in there. Adding a new client. So this should track the information that you would use when you're putting information into the Access database. So this is keyed for the most part to the paper forms that we have for you and also for the Access database. So over here on business name, see if you look at this red star next to business name, that red star denotes that that is a required field. So when you're going through the database, whenever you see that red star, you're going to have to put some information into that field before you're going to be able to save the record. So if we put in a business name here, like Pete's Pet Store, then we're going to have to look up the county, and that's going to be in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. So you can see that the address lines are actually not required here, but what is required is zip code. Zip code is always very important for us. Contact first name is going to be Pete Peterson, and he lives in Brooklyn, so I'm just going to bear with me for a second. Oops. So all of these fields should be familiar to everyone. Just to go over this again for everyone on the call, what industry is the business in? Please, 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 as much as possible, fit whatever business you're talking to into these areas. These industries come from the Department of Labor. So if you don't intuitively know what industry to put the person in, then please ask them, where they would put themselves. So Pete's Pet Store is going to be retail, and we love to get information about how the business heard about SBAP. So down at the bottom here, you can see there's two buttons. There's Save, and then there's Add a New Case. So you can either just save this, and then you have a client, or you can go ahead and add a new case right away. So conceptually, I just want everybody to understand that each client could have more than one case. So you should think about that temporally, because we don't want people, you actually can't have more than one open case at a time. So the reason that you can add a new case is if you have a return customer. So right now we'll add a new case. And this is our add case screen. You can see at the top of the screen, you're going to have sort of basic helpful information about this client. So the client ID is there for you, the name of the business, and the contact person, and then the phone number, which I find super helpful when I'm actually using the database, that the phone number shows up on most of the screens when you're inside of any client or casework for that client. It's a really good quick reference place. So you can see that some of the fields on this add a case screen have auto-populated to help everyone out. So the SBAP SBSO is already auto-populated with CSS because I'm logged in under CSS. And then you can also see the primary case handler there has my name in it because I'm the one person who's logged in. So open date. This is going to be the date that I spoke with the person. Spoke with Pete today. Intake method. This is a drop-down. So phone, walk-in, letter, internet, other. Oh, look at that. So on the open date, you see there's now 3 stars because when I put in 12/4/12, the system didn't recognize that as a valid date. So you can either keep trying to put in, so that works if you put in 2012. So you have to put in 4 digits for the year, or you can use our little calendar function here and pick a date. So intake method, back to that. So whenever you're test driving the system and you look at our drop-down menus, if you see things in this menu, or if you notice things that aren't in these menus that you think need to be in these menus, please tell us. So I talked to Pete on the phone, and let's say Pete has 5 employees and his annual revenue is between $250,000 and $750,000 a year. I asked Pete to give me a ballpark figure for his average wages, and he's in between 25 and 50. And they offer insurance. So what type of insurance? This drop-down is going to give you a list of health plans in the state. So they should all be there because we took them from the CHA database. But again, if you see something that's not there, then definitely let us know. And he has an Oxford plan. Going through these, they should be familiar to everyone. And at the end of this, let's say I referred him to CHA. Okay. So right below the referral that I just filled out on screen, you'll see service provided. And please check all that apply. So I talked to Pete, and I definitely gave him a lot of general information and advice. But then he had more questions, and so I gave him some detailed information and advice. So negotiated resolution, that's not going to really happen. Represented informal process, that should not happen. And then referred client, that will happen often. Okay. Down here, needs. So this is where our needs section is, and this is a section that's going to be a little bit different for everyone. Point that out. So in the needs information, the one thing to understand about needs in this database is that for our reporting on our end, we can't count cases unless there's at least one need. So please be aware of that, everyone. I'm going to repeat it. In order for a case to be counted, you have to have need information in there. So right now, you can see that there's no red stars next to these needs, and the reason for that is when you click on one of the needs, I have to wait here a second, you'll see that some more information pops up below that need. So I talked to Pete about ACA tax credits, and now under client eligibility and client knowledge of tax credit, there are 2 stars that are there for those fields. So those are things that I have to fill out. So let's just say that he's eligible and that he had no idea about these tax credits. Sound familiar? So you'll see also down here that says add this need again or delete the last need. So it doesn't seem very applicable for ACA tax credits, but there could be a situation where you would want to add the need again. And in terms of building in functionality for the database, some things that may not intuitively make sense right now make sense sort of on the back end in terms of designing the database, in terms of our capacity to change things in the future. This is important. Delete the last need. You'll see there right next to add this need again. So if you delete that one, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to delete this need? And we can go, okay, yeah. So that's the ACA tax credit need. We're going to go through each one of them just so you see the options there because they're a little bit different for each one of them. Pete was also interested in talking about COBRA. Here we have no further information needed at this time, or we'll take appropriate action when required. So maybe Pete has to lay off a worker, and so he wanted to know all about COBRA. Employee transitions. As I said before, some of this stuff may not be super intuitive for why the system is the way that it is in terms of options. But for some of these needs, we just needed to make sure that we had an option in the system. So for employee transitions, there's only one thing there, but you need to select it. Finding coverage. Source of coverage, recommended, discussed. So we talked to Pete about Health in New York, and then the outcome is that he is going to apply. Here, we're going to add this need again. because we also talked to him about Health Pass, but he's not going to apply for that. So that's a situation where you could have two different sort of outcomes under one need. Individual employee need. This would be when you're going to be forwarding the client to CHA. So he had a problem, let's just say, with an appeal. And changing coverage here. His current coverage is small group because we said he has an Oxford plan. And his reason for change, there's the big one right there, is cost. And let's just say he's going to switch plans. Even though we've referred him, he's told us that he's switching plans. Rate review. Probably won't be using that one for a couple months. So, as I'm going through these, the reason that I'm selecting each one of these needs is just to show everybody them right now on the call. You obviously don't need to select all of them when you're doing every case. You just select the ones that are going to be applicable. So rate review. There you can see the options. Some of these you may not use to begin with. We just, again, are trying to build in capacity for the database. You should have everything that you would use. And so when you're going through and test driving this for us, please keep in mind that we're looking for things that you need to have inside the system that are not there right now. Okay, and the 10th need down here is Healthy New York. The information provided, client will complete application and submit, got coverage, client failed to choose or not eligible. So he's going to complete and submit that. So it seems a little redundant. Number 4 is finding coverage, and then you can select Healthy New York. And then at the bottom here, we have Healthy New York, right? And the client will complete an application and submit. So for the time being, it would be great if you selected both of those, if you talk to someone about Healthy New York, because they're two different data points. And we can talk about that and think about ways to maybe change that in the future, but for the time being, if you talk to people about Healthy New York, which I hope you're doing a lot, then there would be two different places because the person is looking for coverage, so you're going to be doing number 4 right there, finding coverage, and selecting Healthy New York. And then you also check Healthy New York down here so that we can get some detailed information about the outcome of the Healthy New York. Okay, this is different. This service session information at the bottom of this screen. So time spent on case. Here we have less than an hour, 1 to 2 hours, or over 2 hours. I had a really quick call with Pete. I've been doing this for a while. Got really efficient with it. The other thing that you'll see that's new is the amount saved. So for right now, don't worry about that field, pretty much. If you do have a situation where you're going to be saving somebody money, like for sure that they changed plans and you can say however much money they saved by changing the plan, for example, then please, please, please put that information in there. And then, of course, you're going to explain it in the notes down below. But, if it doesn't have a star, then it's not something that we're expecting everybody to have. And that amount saved box does not have a star on it right now. So notes. So I'm going to put in my notes into the notes screen. And what we would like for everyone to do is to follow this convention. So you put in your name and then a dash, and then you would put in the date. So because our notes right now are sort of one long scroll of notes in our system, the reason that it's great to put in a date in your name is because there may be somebody else, especially at agencies where there's multiple people who could be doing casework. So in the notes, you know who put in that note and then what date that note got put in. So talk to client. He was looking for information on changing plans. We also discussed ACA tax credits, and then put in all sorts of other information that you have from your conversation with him. He will be applying to Health in New York. That's likely sufficient. With those ellipses there, so you definitely would have more information. And then you can save the case there, or you can close the case at the bottom. So at case closing, if you just save it, let's just do that. So we save the case. Okay. And you're going to go back to your client view if you save a case. So again, the client view, you have the information on top for you. And then because you're in client view, you can see the detailed information that's there. And you can edit that detailed information by going into Edit Client. Since we're doing the training, that'll take you there. You can navigate back inside the system by clicking on this back arrow. And underneath the client information in client view, now you'll see that there's a case. And the case listing, you'll see this open case, and then open date, and there's no close date there because we haven't closed it, the network member, organization, then all the needs that we listed are going to be listed there for you. And then for me, I'm going to have an option to review the case. You all, if you're logged in right now, may not be seeing that. And then you can also see that there's print case. So let's go back into the case. So to go back into the case, we're going to click on Open under the status. Okay. So let's say there was some lingering question we had for Pete. Or maybe Pete called us like just the next day. So I'm going to put in 12/5/12, and you can say checked on Pete's question with CSS, and then wrote him this email. And then you would go into your email account and you would copy whatever email you sent Pete, and then you would paste in email. So in the old system, we had asked you to not put any client information in your notes. Here, because it's all in the system, I don't think that that's an issue anymore. So you can put in checked on Pete's question, for example, if you want to identify the client. So another thing is that you can put in lots and lots and lots of notes. So whenever I'm doing casework inside a database, inside the CHA database, I regularly, first of all, correspond in email with people because a lot of business people have email. And then I also put those emails, the text of it, inside my case review notes. So after this, we're going to be done. Oh, one of the really good reasons, after you answer the question, let's say even like the next day, you talk to Pete again because you didn't close the case yet, and talk to Pete about being in Storybank. So Pete seemed pretty happy with the SBAP services, and so he seemed like a pretty good target for store banking. So we talked to Pete about being in the story bank, sent him the paperwork. He will be sending in pictures. You could either have more notes in here that say he sent pictures on different days and whatnot. But let's just say that now you're ready for closing the case. So you can do this, or you can do the drop down, pick the menu. Okay, closure reason. Case completed or lost to follow up. So case completed means that you completed your case. You feel like you've done everything that you can do. You've referred the person to a broker on your broker list. You've referred the person to Health in New York or Health Pass. You know that the person is going to be talking to their accountant. Whatever the situation is, whatever need that they have, you feel like you've fulfilled it to the best of your ability, and so the case is complete. That's it. That's going to be the vast majority of your cases. Usually you just give some advice, and you have some idea of the outcome, and then your case is complete. Loss to follow-up means if you can't get back in touch with the person, generally. Like if you've called the client and they just won't return your call, or maybe an email address has been turned off, whatever the case is, you can't reach the client. So that would be lost to follow-up. I'm not going to select that right now because I want to show you something. Storybank case. Yes, this guy really wants to be in the Storybank. So Storybank, just to reiterate Storybanking, we want it to be a bank. So these are people that could be called upon in the future for some sort of publication, either reporting or media or something like that, right? So when you're talking to people about story banking, you don't have to tell them they're definitely going to be in, X publication. Just ask them if they would be willing to have their information shared. Media release. So yes, we got the media release. We always want to have the media release. So right now I'm going to try and close this case. So if I click on close case, it says there were errors on the page. Darn it. So the error on the page is closure reason is required. So I was pretty good throughout this entire form because I filled out, look at all these needs I selected, it's crazy. And then I selected all the required fields that had the stars, but I forgot one. I didn't put in the closure reason. So, I completed this case, everything's fine. So when you close the case, now in the client view, you'll see that the status has changed, closed. The other thing that you'll see is that now you can add a new case. So if it's January and Pete calls you back, you can add a new case there. And so you start to get a case history for each client. You can also from the screen print your case now. So it's up to you how you want to do your record keeping in-house. I've talked with our grants manager, and she is pretty certain that you all can move to an electronic system if you prefer that. We should definitely talk about it and verify that, but if people want to, for example, let's see if I can even do this on this laptop. But if you want to create PDFs, for example, of these case files and store things electronically, then that is up to you. If you want to actually print them out and have a hard copy in a locked drawer, you can also keep doing that. But this could potentially, bring you closer to the paperless dream. So on this print case screen, you will see administrative information, client information, case information. It's going to be long because we have all those needs in there and all this information. Here, right down at the bottom here, it says case review notes. No case review history returned. So if I had reviewed this case and found something lacking, then I would have sent you inside the system a case review note. And those case review notes would be shown at the bottom of this print screen. So when this print case screen came up, you can see that it opened up a new tab. So if we could just go back to our old tab. So we have a question here from Jean. It's about close dates. Sometimes you think you've answered their questions and closed the case the same day, but I found it's good to call again in about 4 to 6 weeks and check what's happened. Good way to get a story. So what should we do about close dates? Great question. So one of the remedies to that is that you could ask me to reopen the case because I will have administrator privileges, so I can always reopen a case, or you can start a new case. So the case work is you're asking about like story banking, and I think that that's a really valid point because sometimes in order to get the person to sort of agree to the story bank idea, it takes a little time to do that. But that's not actually like the case work. So you can still close the case if you're still working on the story banking. I understand if you want to do case management inside the system, it would be better maybe for you to see that case as being open still if you want to keep talking to that client. And maybe that's something for us to think about in terms of having another sort of case status. But thank you for bringing that up, and that's definitely the kind of feedback that we are wanting from people as they go through the system. Okay, so short answer is I can reopen the case for you, I guess, at this point. So back, if we go back to our client view screen that we were on before, go where should we go now? So we've gone through clients and we've gone through cases. So add a case can be done for multiple screens. We talked about how you can have multiple cases for one client, but only one case open at a time. We went through all the needs that you can put, and then inside the notes, I wanted to just make sure that everybody noticed that the text inside there doesn't have any formatting. So I can't control or Apple B to make something bold or to underline it or things like that. And of course, inside these notes, you should have our 3 magic elements: need, advice, and outcome. So we also went through closing a case. And went and looked at the print screen. So let's go back to our main screen now. Sorry. So up at the top, very top of the page, you can see S.main menu, case management bulletin board, presentation, reports, and then log out. So you have some navigation inside the database at the top of each screen as well. So we can go back to S.main menu. And the second button that we'll see underneath create or search for a business client is case management bulletin board. So the case management bulletin board is for organizations who want to do their case management inside the system. So it's a feature that we've built into the database to try and help you with your own case management. So I'm going to be able to pull up everybody's cases. So I'm going to look and see what cases were migrated by our developers into this live system. And it looks like maybe none of our test cases. So none of our cases, it looks like, that we were testing before got pushed over into this new system. Sorry, this is hot off the presses. It was just finished. We have a tight schedule here. So there's the case that I just put in is the only case that's in this system right now. So since I closed that case, as you can see down here where my cursor is, or my pointer, because it's an open case, it's not going to show up. So if I search for closed cases, there we go. Okay. So you can, narrow down your search by date or by case handler or by type of case. You can do all cases, which for right now is going to be the same case. So here, if we had a bunch of other cases in here, it would list the other cases, and you can look and see for yourself that it shows you the client ID, the case ID, the business name, the SBSO. That might be just in my view. I'm not sure whether you guys can see that when you're logged in. Open date, case handler, intake method, and then you can also print that case from this screen. So this is a really handy tool if you want to start looking through your cases. And after the data migration is done by February, then all of your old casework is going to be in this system. So you're going to be able to search through all of your cases, hopefully pretty easily, and find those old clients this way, narrow down and look and see, which cases you have that are open still, which cases you've marked as story bank cases, and then one of them that's really important is which cases are under review. So after you do your casework and it's the end of the month, I'm going to go into your casework and start reviewing your cases. And if I put one of them under review, then that means that it needs some sort of attention. And so you'll be able to see cases under review by going into the case bulletin board and selecting case under review. Cases without needs, as we said before, the case isn't going to be counted unless it has needs, so you'll be able to see which cases are there that don't have needs as well. Okay, so going up to the top of the screen for navigation again, let's move on to presentations. And presentations are going to look a little bit like what we just saw, the case management bulletin board. So presentations, you'll be able to search, and I am sure that there's been also no presentations migrated. So let's just double check, but yeah. So here, let's add a presentation and put a record in here. This is very exciting. It's the very first record. So add a presentation. So in the presentation screen, you can see at the top here, there's save, complete, and print. So the difference in between save and complete. So we understand that when you're putting in presentation information, you may not do it all in one sitting because it might be a lot of information, especially because we're also going to talk about in just a minute how you put in the participant evaluation forms, which is actually inside this screen. So if you're doing this and you're also multitasking and doing something else, just make sure that you're going to be saving the presentation. And then when you're done and you have all of your evaluations in, then that's when you're going to complete it. And you're going to need to have complete presentation records by the end of the month. So that's akin to having a need for your case. You're going to want to complete your presentation so that we can count them. Okay, let's go through this form. It should be pretty familiar to everyone because it is also based on the paper forms and your Access databases. So, had a really busy day on the 5th, talking to Pete and doing a presentation. The presentation was actually in the morning, and that presenter should have defaulted to my name, probably, or at least somebody in my organization. It may default to someone in your organization when you log in. That might just be because I am logged in as a administrator. We are writing down that issue as I'm speaking. And then the presentation topic. So you can see that these are check boxes because you might be presenting on more than one thing at each presentation. So we talked about what was in federal health reform, and we talked about tax credits. These look redundant to me now that I'm looking at them, but they could be different. And then let's say we also talked about Healthy New York. We gave a big Healthy New York presentation. Okay, so presentation language. You can see a lot of these fields do not have red stars next to them. No second language. So venue type. Venue is a new language that we've added to the database that we'd like everyone to understand. The venue is the actual place, and then the venue type is the type of place. So the venue type is going to be either maybe at your office, or when you went and visited a merchant association, or it was at a civic group, or maybe it was at the public library, or maybe this is an expo or a trade show, or it was a community event. So it could be a street fair, a health fair, some other sort of community event, or it was at a church, or it might be other. If you see something that's not in this list, please, please, please tell us so that we can think about adding to this list. These venue types, we're just starting to track these now. We've been tracking them, but to track them in this way. So it was at the Chamber office, and the Chamber of Commerce was, well, that doesn't make sense because I'm from CSS, does it? But let's just say that I did something at the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Sorry, I'm so Brooklyn-centric. I don't remember the address, just too bad for me. So here you can see not even the zip code of this is necessary. Contact person at venue, first name, last name, phone number. So you can use this system to manage your presentation and your presentation schedules. And we would like for people to be able to do that. Whenever you schedule presentations, put it in here and save it. Speaking of saving, maybe at this point, this is how you're scheduling it. And so you don't really have very much information about other aspects of this form, so you're going to want to save it. Oh, look at that. You have to enter a valid time. Maybe it's because I put these in there. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Okay, so now that I've saved it, now I have this presentation inside the system. So it's sort of scheduled in that way. And for this presentation screen, you can either click on the ID to go back to where we were, or you could, if you have all the information that you wanted already in there, you could from here add a form. And what a form means here is that that's adding your evaluation form. So you could do that straight from this screen. But let's go back to that presentation and look at the rest of the form. So panelists and co-presenters. Here, you know, this could be Ed Begley. And he's from STARS, whatever that is. And then you put his contact information in there. So his expertise or topic, he could be an accountant, he could be a broker, he could be a lawyer. If there's other panelists or co-presenter types that you often work with, then please let us know so we can think about changing this drop-down. Ed is obviously an accountant. And participants. Now, this is a big section. It doesn't look very big. It's a big section. So number of participants signed in. We had a really great event, and we had 25 participants that were signed in on the SBAP sign-in sheet that everyone should have at every presentation, whether it be an expo or a church group or any other type of presentation that you're counting as a presentation. You should have the sign-in sheet. So 25 people signed in. It was a great presentation. And let's say 20 of them gave us participant evaluation forms. So I have 20 participant evaluation forms to fill in, which I'm not going to do on this call right now, but we're going to click on Add Evaluation Form and see the magic that just happened. So at the top there, you are, I need to move some things around. Okay, so data presentation. On my browser, maybe because I'm using Chrome, the data presentation is cut off a little bit. So yeah, so that's an issue that we have with Chrome. Some of you may be using other browsers, and it might just be fine. So just be aware of that. If you're seeing some things that don't look right, it might be the browser that you're using. So data presentation, 12:05, 2012, time 9 a.m. So those are auto-populated for you. You don't have to think about those anymore. The other thing that you don't have to ever put in this form is your name or the organization's name, any of that stuff, because that's on the presentation form itself, right? Here you're just going to be putting in information, like whatever information the evaluator put on the form. So here, I also want everybody to notice that there's this star next to zip code. We had to make a choice. We had to figure out like what thing we needed to be required on this form, and that's the only thing that's required is zip code. But when you're doing your presentations in the future, you should ask people that if they're filling out the form, the one required field for them to fill out is zip code. Please, please ask people to put in their zip code because we need that to count that evaluation form. And we'll see how that goes. We think that it's going to work. It's also really good data for us, so that's what we would like to see. And so that's where we're at right now. So that's my zip code if you haven't figured it out yet. So that's also where we did the presentation, I guess. So where is your business headquarters located? So 11211. What industry is your business in? So whatever information the person put down, then you are going to click in that information. So maybe that was all the information they put in, which would be sort of sad. We'd really like them to be added to the email distribution list. We'd really love to know how they heard about the presentation. We'd really, really love to know comments or suggestions. That would be really great. And Jonathan just wanted me to remind everyone that for reporting purposes, these forms are gold. these are sort of the most important forms for us. So on our call, if we have any time, like where are we at? 11:15. So yeah, we have 15 more minutes of this database training, and then maybe we can talk about issues involving evaluation forms and getting evaluation forms for people. Maybe that can be our topic. Because these forms are really, really important for us. And some of you are amazing at getting them. Like, you get a lot of these forms. And we really, really love it. We really, really appreciate it. And it's hard. I totally understand that getting people to spend a little extra time with you filling out these forms so that you can enter them into the database can be a chore. It can be challenging. But like I said, it's really, really important for us. I understand that it can be really challenging if you're piggybacking on a presentation, of course, because there's multiple sort of mini presentations going on at the same time. But there's ways to get around that. I've seen some people on the network do it really smoothly. So we should share ideas about how to get these presentation evaluation forms in. And I really hope that this functionality in the database makes entering the data less onerous for everybody who's got that task. So I'm going to save that one. And go down there, and you'll see in the participant section now that you have a form number and then a zip code and then an edit or delete. So before you complete this record, this presentation record, you can go back in here and you can edit the form. And it's going to take you to this edit participation evaluation page, which looks a little different. And then you can go through and do whatever editing you need to do, and you can save it. If you are adding the form this way, I mean, one of the things, just going through it now, maybe one of the things that we could have done was put another button on the bottom here that says, like, add new form, for example. So that if you're doing 10, 20 of them, you can just click add a new form and then start a new form that way. But for right now, you would save. Look at that! I need to put in a zip code. You would save the form and then go back. Yeah. So maybe that workflow isn't the most efficient. So we should talk about that. Look at this. We're getting the internal feedback loop going on. Okay. So, and then down here, underneath the participant, you have outreach. So these are outreach materials. So in theory, these educational materials that you would put in would be the quantity of the brochures often that you're going to have. So I gave out 10 English, and I had 10 Spanish that I gave out, tax credit brochure, ACA overview brochure, rate review brochure. So, these are aspirational. So we're going to save that, and then down at the bottom here, and if you create your own materials, maybe we should have a space for that. Let's see, like an other space, so that you can write in whatever educational materials maybe that you've made on your own, and you can put those in. And then promotional materials. So, the SBAP balloons that everybody loves. And the CD openers. So we just put a lot of swag in here, which are all good ideas, right? There should be SBAC mugs and tote bags. What's not on here are magnets. There's magnet clips. So we're going to change some of these labels so that they reflect what we actually have right now. Okay. Going down. So up at the top here, I've put in all of my, wanted to make sure everybody noticed, whenever I put in our participant form collected, it gave the number. So 2 are in the system that are there. So you don't ever have to worry about like putting in a number in your Access database for the evaluations that you've pulled in. Whatever evaluations you put in the system, it's going to count them for you automatically. Okay, so I'm going to complete this because I've done a really good job. Oh, and there are errors on this page. Address, line 1 required, city required, zip code, first name, last name, phone number, and email. So there should have been stars on those forms. The reason that they're not up there initially is because you can save the record without having that information in there. And now that you've tried to complete it, it has reminded you that you need to have that information. So address line 1 to Prince Street, which is not in Brooklyn. There we go. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Now if we have everything in here to complete, and we do. So now in your presentation screen, which again looks a lot like the case management bulletin board, you can see that you have in here this completed presentation. So now that's going to count toward your baseline. See what happens when it does evaluation form. We'll check that out. I don't think that it should be asking you to be able to add an evaluation form at that stage, but there's still a link there. Okay, and you can add another presentation right from this screen. So that's pretty much the presentation section as we have devised it. So if we go back to SBAP main menu, and we're good on time, the last thing that I want to talk about just real quickly is your reports menu. And since we don't have a lot of sort of dummy information in here right now, I don't know if this is even going to pull up anything, but inside the reports menu, you're going to see a couple different reports. Case reports, we are going to ask everyone to run a case report for the period of the quarter that you are invoicing, and send a copy of that report along with your invoice. So your invoice, we ask you to put on it the number of cases and the number of presentations. So whenever you print out your case report for that period, your case report numbers and your presentation report numbers should align with what's on your invoice, right? So hopefully that'll cut down on any back and forth that we've done in terms of like what's listed on your invoice and then what's in your database. So case report. Here you put in a date to and a date from, or date from and date to, and then the agency you would put in, and then funding source. So your funding source right now you don't need to worry about. We'll be sorting that out in-house. So let's see what happens when we do review report right now. Okay. So I think the dates have to be in here, right? So we just want them for the month. Nope. So we're going to select all, and we'll probably have to select all for funding source, but let's just make sure we do. Okay, so whenever you run one of these reports, you're going to have to select funding source. So select all at this point. View report. Okay. So the report was generated, and it shows you what agencies and the dates and funding sources. Okay. Number of clients, number of cases, number of needs. Okay. So this should have information in it because we just put a case in for 12/1 to 12/31, so that's a glitch. So this would have, after you put in all of your information for January, let's say, would have all the information from January in here. So case information, total number of cases open during the reporting period, and then cases closed would be here, and needs information. So this is the type of information, and you can see that's going to be on this case report. So it's going to aggregate all the information from your cases and then put it in a nice report format. And then you will print that out and staple it to your invoice, make sure that it aligns with the numbers on your invoice, and send that off to us. You can print that out by exporting it as a comma delimited file. You can make it as a PDF right away, do it as an Excel file. This might be the easiest one. Let's just try and do that now. And see what it looks like as PDF. Okay, so sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. This one? Actually, no. Okay, sorry about that. So in the PDF case reports, you can see it just created this PDF. So there will be data in here, obviously, if you have data in your database. Okay, nifty. So back to the reporting screen. You can use the back arrows when they exist, or you can also just go back in your browser. Now we're back at the reports menu. It's the same drill for the rest of these reports. Presentation list you can make if you just want to do your presentation. Let's see if we can get a presentation, see if those presentations populated. Just for fun, because we have a couple minutes. Oh, look at that. Okay, so our presentation actually got populated into this report, which is great. And then, of course, you can do the exporting in whatever file that you want, whatnot. Okay. Again, you can go to the top and navigate to reports that way. Click here on reports. Okay, so those are the two main reports that, you know, it would be great if you wanted to play with those, or the case reports and the presentation reports. Okay. So I think that pretty much concludes our database training. So moving forward, what we would like for everyone to do is, if you received the email that I sent out that had the materials in it for this call, and if you didn't, please, you can either email me or send a message right now through the interface to Jonathan. There is a test case that I sent out. So this has information on it for you to go through and to try and enter this case into your database. So it's pretend time. We're all going to pretend like we went to Mike's Pet Shop on 180 Washington Lane in Washington, New York, in Washington County. And there's no phone number on there, so make one up. So there should be enough information here in the narrative. So there's a short narrative. Mike attended a small business presentation at his local Chamber of Commerce. One of the topics covered that evening was health reform. Mike was interested in understanding how he could benefit more from health reform and left his card with the SBAP staff member who gave the presentation on healthcare reform. SBAP staff member called Mike. So this is an intake over the phone. So I don't say that explicitly on here, but there should be enough information on here for everybody to fill out a form. If there's not, I apologize, and you can let me know and make stuff up. But it's a little bit of a sleuthing exercise. So there's a conversation that I made up in between Mike Benjamin and you, SBAP coordinator. So you'll go through this dialogue in between you and Mike and put the information gleaned from this dialogue into the case report. So you can do that, either directly from this sheet, as if you're having the conversation on the phone and adding information directly into the database, or you can fill out a paper form if you want and do it that way. It's up to you. So it would be really great if everybody blocked out an hour to go through and do this test case in the next week or so, and then give us some feedback and let us know what's happening inside the database. If things are easier for you, what things work, what things don't work, what information is missing, all that sort of fun stuff. So I think that now we are ready to move on for the next half hour. Since we have a really short time frame and we have, over, I think, everybody on the call, we'll see. If we can go through and if everybody can do our regular round of bringing up either some casework that they've been working on,